Oh, that was an incredible experience. It was before I joined up. We were living just outside East Grinstead, and my parents knew Archie McIndoe. And he asked if I would go up to number 3 ward, he was, in the burns unit, the East Grinstead Hospital, because the whole ward was literally kept for burn. It was a burns unit. It was at the time, of course, mostly airmen, but other people got badly burned, like a girl who was working in a sugar factory and there was a direct hit and she was covered in sugar. I mean, horrendous, but McIndoe looked after all these people. And the nurses, they couldn't cope with it. Was very free and easy. And the nurses couldn't cope with it all, with things like they were allowed to smoke. And if somebody could sit by the bed and help flick the ash and talk to them. And I went to every bed, every day, and did things like reading letters to them or writing the letters for them or cashing checks for them or anything that was needed, taking them in wheelchairs up to the cinema. And as we lived nearby, I sometimes took them in the car, took them home for the day when they're always allowed to. And so, and one of them went on, "This is your life." And I rang him up the next morning because he lived nearby. Said, "Do you remember me wheeling you back in at 2 o'clock in the morning drunk?" He said, "Yes, I do."
What's that?
Squadron leader. I can't remember his surname now because I always called him Squad. But he was on This Is Your Life, so expect that's recorded. But he was a squadron leader, and he'd been burnt. I'm not as badly as some of them. Mostly, a lot of them were hands. Well, it was basically hands and faces, really. And they had new eyelids and all sorts of things. And if Archie had done an operation, for instance, on somebody's eyes, and they hadn't seen me, they'd never seen me. They'd been there blinded with bandages on when I went there. They'd never hadn't seen anyone, and they'd been talking to me every day. And they liked me to be at the end of the bed so that when they took the bandages off, they could sort of see what I looked like. Not in a personal way, but just that there was somebody who they could put a face to a voice, and that sort of helped. And if
This is all voluntary. This is all voluntary. You volunteer.
yes, oh yes, no, I did absolutely. And no, I just did that, and sometimes took them home, and we'd play cards, and of course their hands were in a terrible mess. You had to throw the cards away afterwards, these obviously. And we had a pool. If they were able, they were sometimes could at least sort of sit on the edge of the pool and pretend that they were in the pool, And they liked walking around the garden. It gave them a break from the hospital. And
their psychological welfare too, as much as that.
yes, they were mostly. See, they had the masses of gloves on, of course, as you know, but sometimes I think they hadn't got enough gloves on, or the gloves got burnt off or something. But their hands turned into fists mostly, and so they could sometimes. McIndoe managed to get a thumb, for instance, perhaps, and the first finger separate, but their hands would be clenched. They very seldom ever had their hands straight again. And their faces, of course, were badly burnt, but I must say I got so used to it. Once I was in East Grinstead and a friend came up and said, "You're talking to someone, was he burnt?" And I said, "I haven't a clue." I really honestly didn't know if he was burnt or not. I got to a stage it didn't mean a thing to me. It was a person, as it should be.